Today I'm going to show you some techniques for creating backgrounds for your journaling. I'm starting with dry brush, using a dry funky brush and some acrylic paint. And then I'm just kind of spreading it around loosely to create this sort of feathery look. Scraping. This works great with more liquid fluid acrylics. You can use any brand craft paints, or you can take tube acrylics and you can water them down and then just dribble it right on the paper and scrape. I'm using a piece of old mat board cut down, but you can also use a credit card or a spackle knife and try out a few colors. Make sure that you go out to the edges. Don't just work in the middle of the paper. That'll give it more of a sense of expansiveness and more like a background. And you don't have to cover up every single bit of white. You can leave some open. Rolling. I'm using a paint touch-up roller that I got at Lowe's. The brand is Whiz, H-W-H-I-Z-Z. Or you can use a printmaking brayer. That would work too. And again, you don't have to fill everything up. You can leave some white space if you want. But this gives a different mark, and you could use multiple colors. Gesso. I like the gesso that comes this way in a bottle. Pours easily. I put some in a container. And then with my funky brush, I'm just putting some swooshes of gesso and leaving some areas without the gesso. And then when the paper is dry, you can use a roller or a brush, and you'll see that the non-gessoed areas absorb the paint differently than the gessoed areas and gives a subtle, interesting texture. And then I'm using a spray bottle of water and blotting that water while wet and while the paint is wet with some paper towel. You can use a rag and you get some kind of splatter effect. And you can use multiple colors, drying between layers. Colored tissue paper. Keep in mind that tissue paper can bleed. Some brands bleed and some don't, so watch out for that. I'm using Golden Soft Gel Acrylic Medium. I like that because it spreads easily, but you can use any acrylic medium. You might have to water it down a bit. So I'm tearing the tissue paper. Try to get different shapes and different sizes. I put the gel medium down where I'm going to apply the tissue. Then I put gel medium over the top and apply a little pressure to just adhere it. And make sure you go around the edges. You can also use watered down white or clear glue or Mod Podge. You just want it thin enough so it spreads easily. Maybe like the consistency of heavy cream. So similarly, using some newspaper and newsprint, and you can get some interesting words, images, different size of text. In this case, a foreign language. I'm not sure if it's Japanese or Chinese. So that makes it interesting visually too. And again, different shapes and sizes. And even old book pages. If you don't mind tearing up a book. I like the yellowed effect of the pages. And then again, tearing them up with your hands. Of course, you can cut them with a scissors or a mat knife if you prefer a sharp edge. But I like that torn look. Or you can combine the two. And of course, you can combine these techniques. The idea is to create an interesting background that then you can add some other collage elements, photos. Now, if you're using photocopies for this, check that the ink doesn't bleed. Here I'm combining some different techniques on the scraping that I did. I'm adding tissue paper and some torn book pages. So again, if you are using photocopies, test it out, make sure that the ink doesn't bleed. If it is bleeding, you can spray your photocopies with a fixative, which you can get in an art store, and make sure the fixative is dry. You might want to do a couple coats, and then you should be okay to do this. Now here I've got the orange, putting a little orange tissue paper down. And then I decide, I don't want that big bright spot in the corner. But when I tear it off, I've got that little bit there. And I kind of like that little bit. So I thought, well, I'll add a little more, few other bright bits. Little sparks. I like that idea. Many of the techniques I got from this book, which I highly recommend. Thanks for watching, and happy journaling.